Dubai crypto licensing, VARA and beyond.
This is a talk I normally do over the course of an hour or an hour and a half. Naturally, I'm going to squeeze it down into 10 minutes. I'm Gordon Einstein. I'm an attorney licensed from the United States, but practicing with my base in Dubai. And I found it fascinating after having wrestled with the SEC in the United States to actually start to work with a regulator who knows what they're doing and is actually granting licenses. It's a revelation to have someone you can talk to who actually has a program in place and is moving forward. So just so I can get a sense of the audience, who here is directly involved in a crypto project, either as a founder, a participant, or a consultant? Great. And where are you, just out of curiosity, where's your project situated? Lithuania. We were just there. My grandmother's from there. We love Lithuania. Lithuania? Huh? Dubai. We love Dubai also. But, you know, grandmother came from Lithuania. And I saw a hand, maybe Lithuania. I like this crowd. Okay, very good. Yes, we were just in Vilnius. It was amazing. Okay, so we'll do the fast version. I'm happy to share the deck, okay, and happy to talk to you individually. You won't miss out. Okay, so let's just kind of breeze through this. The VARA is Dubai's Virtual Asset Regulatory Authority, or Virtual Assets Regulatory Authority. It was just put into place, or just had its enabling legislation. And again, everyone in the background, I'm happy to share the deck. Record away, but I will share the deck with you. I have it on my phone. Just grab me right after, okay? It's the first regulatory authority in the world that's entirely dedicated towards virtual assets and crypto. It is not like every other legacy regulator where they're trying to figure out whether or not they have the jurisdiction to manage this area. They are purpose-built to handle virtual assets and crypto, which is, for me at least, a big relief. The enabling legislation came out in early 2022. Came out with their first framework earlier this year in 23 in February, and now they're actively granting license, including to crypto.com as of this morning. So I think someone in the audience is happy about that. Okay, like I just mentioned, it is the first purpose-built regulator. It is not the Securities and Exchange Commission. It's not the Commodities Authority. It's not the central bank. It has, for the most part, seized the field of regulation in Dubai. All right, it covers all the usual topics. I just don't really have enough time to go through this. But I think the key idea to understand is that if you're working with virtual assets, if you're working with crypto, whether upfront by issuing tokens or operating an exchange, or doing over-the-counter, or building the software, you are a VASP. You are a virtual asset service provider. That's the acronym they use. I believe under MiCA, which was just the topic, they have a similar term, which is CASP, a crypto asset service provider. They're basically the same thing. It's hard to regulate crypto directly, of course, because it exists purely on a network, and crypto is not a human. Crypto is not a company. It's just a piece of code. So the entry points to regulation, if you like, are the humans and institutions working with these assets. So in Dubai, they're VASPs, and I believe in Europe, they can be CASPs. All right, now, this I always find fascinating, especially as someone come from the US. It's important to understand the Dubai operating environment. Dubai is simply one of 7 emirates that make up the United Arab Emirates. It's not its own country. It's kind of like a state, kind of like a canton, kind of like a province. It's that level of administration. What's interesting about the UAE, what's interesting about that country as a whole, in my mind, is it's very close to Switzerland in its model, in the sense that it's more like a confederation than a federation. It's more like a decentralized country to start with, unlike some other countries. So Dubai, when you think about it, how does an emirate, how does, like a province or a state or a canton have the ability to regulate crypto? Why is that not being handled on the federal level? Well, the UAE is very interesting setup. They have the federal regulator, which is the Securities and Commodities Authority, and they have the Central Council. But what's happened is Dubai is such a powerful emirate within the UAE system that they were able to negotiate for the ability to establish their own regulator, and the national regulator respects them. Basically, if an emirate, under the supervision of the national government, establishes its own competent regulator, it can take the place of the national regulator. right? So what does this mean in practical terms? If you're setting up a crypto company in the United Arab Emirates, the default is that you're going to be subject to the national regulator, the Securities and Commodities Authority. If you're in Dubai, the default is you're going to be subject to VARA. Okay, so 6 out of 7 Emirates gets you under the national regulator. 1 out of 7, Dubai, gets you under VARA. Okay, now here's 2 other little neat things. There's 2 free zones in the United Arab Emirates that are allowed to have their own financial regulatory system, right? In Abu Dhabi, which is sort of the capital emirate of the UAE, there's Abu Dhabi Global Markets, ADGM, right? If you're there, no one's law applies except for ADGM's law, and they have their own internal regulator, okay? And then in Dubai, there's DIFC, okay? Dubai International Financial Center, right? And DIFC, like ADGM, has its own regulator. So it gets a little bit complicated. If you're in Dubai, you're gonna be under VARA, unless you're in DIFC, which is you'll be under DIFC. But you'll notice this extremely pretty graphic I made. And I want you to know I'm a lawyer. I'm not a graphic artist, okay? But I made that graphic. So how many lawyers do you know that can do graphics? Thank you, and I did it just for you. Okay, you should all feel very special. Okay, so this is, and again, I'm just blasting through on time because I got 4 minutes. But the way that VARA regulates is they're enabling legislation. They have decree number 4 from the year 2022 that allows it to exist. And then for each area of regulation, whether it's stable coins or over the counter or operating exchange or payments, they have something called a rule book. Okay. Now this slide's a teeny bit outdated. When I first made this slide, every rule book had been published except for the payments rule book. Now, as of a few months ago, the payments rule book has also come out. So every regulated area under VARA, under the legislation, has a rule book, right? So if you're a VASP or an aspiring VASP, you're gonna apply for a license with VARA. You're gonna make an application with them, hopefully with the help of a local expert, right? And then as you move through the licensing process, they're gonna say, which areas of crypto are you operating in? Are you an exchange? Are you an issuer? Are you a software publisher? Are you doing payments? And you may qualify or you may fall underneath more than one activity, of course, because people do many things. You can be a broker-dealer. Well, for each area that you're operating underneath, a rule book will apply to you. So you're gonna go through the application process. They're gonna vet your project. It's illegal to operate without a license, but they'll give out different stages of license, which we'll talk about. And then as you bring in operations, as you start launching your project, you start bringing yourself into compliance with the appropriate rule book. Is this making sense, everyone? Raise your hand if it's not making sense. And my usual joke, raise your hand if you're not gonna raise your hand no matter what I say. There's always one guy. Now I know who the guy is, okay? There's always one. All right, let me just take this moment to clear up something. A lot of innocent people, innocent, sweet people, go to Dubai, okay, and they get all excited about the fact that they can get a commercial license. They'll set up in a free zone, they'll get their commercial license. The commercial license says you can conduct business, you can hire people, you can open up a bank account, you can get insurance, you can get all this other stuff. Yes, you do need a commercial license to operate in the UAE. You can't just start your business. It's not like other places where you form your business and you're in business. You need to get a business license. Okay, you need to get a commercial license. But, and let me just put this in your brains strongly, all right? Commercial license is one requirement, but if you're going to work with virtual assets or crypto assets, you must also get a virtual asset license from VARA or the appropriate regulator. Okay, you need to have 2 licenses. Okay, so if you're dealing with, there's what it's called a CSP, commercial company service provider in Dubai, and they're telling you that they'll just get you a commercial license and don't worry about it. You should be an informed consumer and understand that that's great, but that's not enough. You need to get the virtual asset license also, right? You need to work from the very beginning to have both licenses. Here's a little interesting tidbit. CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, and stable coins, some stable coins, to be real clear, may not fall under VARA. Okay, they may fall under the national regulator or not at all. So don't 99.9% of the time, VARA regs apply if you're in Dubai and not in DIFC. I just want to point out there are a couple of carve-outs. Now, I don't know anyone in this room who's going to be issuing a central bank digital currency. Though, is anyone here a central bank? Because if you are, I need some money. No, but hypothetically, if you're issuing a central bank digital currency, that's not regulated by VARA. Okay, just again, I'll share the deck. These are the activities that trigger your coverage. If you're doing any of these, you must get a license. Advisory services, which is obviously a very broadly defined term. You know, what actually makes you an advisor when it comes to crypto and blockchain? Am I an advisor? Broker dealers, fairly straightforward. If you're transacting in crypto both on your own account, which makes you a dealer, or on behalf of someone else, which makes you a broker, that falls underneath it. If you're taking custody of someone else's crypto, that's a no-brainer. You're going to be regulated. Okay. If you're merely managing your own crypto, probably not. All right. Payments and remittances, and anything where you're managing virtual assets for someone else. Okay. Now this gets tricky. Technically, issuing tokens is not falling underneath VARA. I find this hard to believe, and I have been advising all my clients, no matter what they do, to talk to VARA, because issuing tokens seems to me like the #1 thing you would fall underneath, but it's a weird way that they drafted the law. So look at exactly what you're doing. Almost certainly you're providing some kind of network or DLT services while you're issuing your tokens, and maybe they think that that's going to be enough. All right, so there's a sequence in getting, I'm really short on time. There's a sequence in getting licenses from VARA. There's 4 steps. You go one at a time. You don't go for the whole thing all at once, which actually is, I'll tell you from experience, a big relief. Okay, you can kind of stick your toe in the water, talk to them, modify your business plan, use it as a sandbox, and then work your way up the licensing ladder. Okay, there's a provisional permit, which allows you to do certain basic things. Then you have your minimal viable product license, the MVP. Then you can operate that MVP and bring on more customers. And then you have an FMP license, which means you can approach the market in general. And actually, you know what? I'm out of time, so I'm going to wrap it up. But if you would like a copy of the deck and you would like to have a longer conversation, I'm happy to share it. It's right here on my phone. Okay? You can applaud.